It's the Atlanta Grubber Podcast with surefire restaurant reviews from throughout the Atlanta metropolitan area. Hosted by Joe Duffy, there is a special focus on his home chomping grounds of Alpharetta and Roswell. You can follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Atlanta Grubber and on atlantagrubber.com. Without further ado, here is your infallible restaurant whisperer, Joe Duffy.
It's episode 9 of the Never Won an Award Yet podcast, the Atlanta Grubber Restaurant Podcast. We're going to take a look in my home chomping grounds, a tremendous brewery, restaurant, and concert venue all wrapped into one. I had ITP the first visit to Chattahoochee Food Works. It's a work in progress, but like what I tasted so far. Want to do another big addition to my I-75 road food episode. I did try and enjoy another barbecue place along I-75 headed north. Is a once Jinx location no longer Jinx? Possibly the best Indian food in Metro Atlanta is in Alpharetta, and a whole lot more. First of all, please visit our friends of Atlanta Grubber, Mitch's Meats and Fish at mitchesmeats.com, high-end butcher and fishmonger. From the Earth Brewery, we're going to tell you a little bit more about them on this episode. 1570 Holcomb Bridge Road in Roswell. OffshoreInsiders.com, home of vetted offshore sports books and the best sports picks in the world, going back to the 1980 Score Phone days, led by handicapper Joe Duffy, whoever he is, and also Duffy Sense. That's Duffy, SCENTS.com, authorized Scentsy dealer. From the Earth Brewery, which is at 1570 Holcomb Bridge Road in Roswell. Look, my neighbors east of 400, I'm sick and tired of hearing them complain that the city council doesn't give us the toys that they think that we should be getting. We haven't supported really good restaurants. We've lost Foundation Social Eatery, Pan Asian Bistro, Fresh Lettuce, just among them. However, we here on the east side of Roswell, we still have a chance to prove that we can support a top-shelf restaurant and a fantastic all-around establishment.
From the earth. God put this here for me and you. Take advantage, man.
And ladies as well. It's a very good restaurant, brewery, and hangout. And is it really possible to be a great brewery and a bad hangout? I don't think so. And also a fantastic music venue. Now, as far as the restaurant is concerned, they got a beer pretzel. It's my wife's second favorite appetizer of any sort. She loves fried pickles. They don't have the fried pickles here, but she loves her beer pretzels, so she's had them all, and it's definitely high on her list of favorites. They do have a seasonal menu. On the current one, at least as I file this, really enjoyed the fish and chips. It's among my favorites. It's got a really nice crunch to it, really crispy, like both the taste and the texture. Now, they have a cheesesteak. It's not a Philadelphia authentic, but it's based on one, and it's got a strong southern accent. It uses filet instead of ribeye, but it's sliced and chopped up, much like a cheesesteak you would get in Philadelphia. Also has one of the Leidenheimer French bread, which is, of course, famous in New Orleans. So it's different than a hoagie roll, but not like it's all that dissimilar. Also, by the way, it is a myth that Philadelphia hoagies have to have Amoroso. That's kind of a tourist myth. There are other great rolls in Philadelphia. Anyway, they also use beer cheese and Duke's mayo. So it's kind of the Philadelphia moving to the south, which is kind of what I did. I moved from the Philadelphia suburbs to the south. It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of a Philadelphia cheesesteak, but certainly with a very strong southern accent, and it's also very high up there on my list of cheesesteaks. One of the reasons that From the Earth does so well, they source from local farms for vegetables. They get meats from Benton's, and I'm not so sure anybody has better bacon than Benton's, but Benton's is a fantastic supplier for meats. Also, the Spotted Trotter, a charcuterie. Springer Mountain, as anybody knows, at least in this area, the best chicken does come from Springer Mountain. Some of the other top items, the bone-in pork chop, duck confit, and of course that southern staple of fried chicken. Now, many of the beers, and as I said, it's also a good brewery in addition to being, what's the term that a lot of people like to use, like the kind of an upscale bar menu, but also it's a good casual semi-upscale restaurant. The brews are very good. Now, it is rotating, but some of their regulars, very possibly my favorite, the Triple IPA. Can't find my way back home.
And I'm wasted and I can't find my way home.
It's quite appropriately named because it does have a 10.2 ABV. Make sure that you do have a designated driver. The first several beers I had of this, fortunately my wife was my designated driver at the tremendous first ever East Roswell Food and Beverage Festival, and I hope that does resume now that we hopefully got that plague behind us. I know that that beer is also a favorite of the Current Hub's tremendous beer writer, Tara Anderson. Now, there is a theme here as all their beers are named after songs, and I guess that's pretty appropriate since this is such a good music venue. Another one of my favorites, Going Out West. It's an American IPA. Probably a good thing that owner Tim Stevens hasn't asked me to name any of their beers after any songs in my shuffle. I'm guessing that You Light Up My Life lager would not be a big seller. Another one that I really enjoyed, and I'm pretty sure this is a pretty new one, Porch Song, which is a New England IPA.
The word from earth, my time is up, but here upon the moon, time stands still.
If I need a scouting report on local and regional bands, my go-to guy is Scott Long from East Roswell. He and his wife Emily, who is an award-winning teacher at Esther Jackson, and of course you know I'm a big fan of educators, and an extra special place in my heart for those who teach at the Title I schools, but they will go all over town chasing the best music around, whether it's at Five Points, Athens, all over ITP and OTP. And some of the best bands that they've had there, with a little help from Scott compiling the list, but one that I personally went to, a guy that I had seen in Athens myself and wanted to see him when he was playing almost in my own backyard, Sean Mullins, a great Georgia artist.
And just before she hangs her head to cry, I sing to her a lullaby. I sing everything's gonna be alright. Rockabye.
Now, I asked Scott to list me some of his favorite artists who have played in the past and perhaps again in the future with many of these: the Reverend Jeff Mosier, John Driscoll Hopkins, the Murder Hornets, the U's of Mariam, Perpetual Groove, and he especially loves the Bluegrass Open Jam Night in the spring. Check them out on social media at ftebrewing.com for the schedule of these various events. They have at Azalea Park a beer garden. Roswell's Azalea Park, 203 Azalea Drive, and it's right along the Chattahoochee. Gorgeous scenery. This started to take off before the plague and has finally returned May to September, Thursday to Sunday until dusk. Starts at 2 p.m. on Fridays, though, to Sunday, but like I said, a little bit later on Thursdays. They have either the From the Earth mobile kitchen and or a guest food truck, and on a beautiful day, like I said, you're not going to get a better venue. You can see the river from there, and maybe you can sneak out. There's kind of a restricted area, but sometimes nobody's looking, and I like to sneak out and just walk along the Chattahoochee. Also, owner Tim Stevens is truly the salt of the earth. He pays it forward as much as any owner does. I'm not saying there aren't other great restaurateurs who also pay it forward. Tim, for example, very recently organized a teacher and school staff appreciation day, contacted local businesses, including some other restaurants, that donated stuff towards some gift packs. So, again, this is a guy that you definitely want to support. But From the Earth, tremendous, a little bit of everything: brewery, restaurant, and concert venue. Madras, Chettinaad, 4305 State Bridge Road, Suite 108, Alpharetta, Georgia. I hope I came close to getting that right. I went on the internet and got all the pronunciations. I used to call it Madras, Chettinaad, but hopefully you get the idea. Excellent Indian restaurant on State Bridge Road. I've told you flat out, I'm definitely infallible when it comes to recommendations. If I tell you to run, don't walk to a place, it's 100% certain it's going to be good. Where I'm not infallible, as I said, to explain to you the difference between southern and northern cuisine and some of the other different regions. I know that Goan has a distinctive taste to me, but still to explain the difference among all these isn't really my strength. But I can tell you the restaurant itself is spectacular. Now, they do specialize in South Indian cuisine, specifically from
Tamil Nadu.
a couple others from other sections of India, other Indian cuisine, such as the Goan fish and chicken, Manchurian cauliflower. Now, I'm often asked what my favorite cuisine is, and the truth is, I find that I'm often affected by the quality of restaurants in my area. For example, before I moved to Roswell, I don't know if I would have had Indian in my top 5 cuisines, but then when I did come here, nearby Alpharetta started getting a lot of high quality Indian restaurants, in part because the technology centers brought in a very large Indian population over there in very nearby Alpharetta. And then Indians skyrocketed on my list. This is likely a reason that this restaurant did move from Decatur, another place where it's impossible to get anything bad. Look, it had been on my list to keep going back, and I hadn't been because more restaurants just keep popping up. Well, both of my vaccinations for COVID were at the Publix in the same shopping center. No way I'm going to get in that strip center and not stop at Madras, Chettinaad. And the lamb vindaloo is probably my favorite dish, and I've had quite a few here over the years, although all the lamb dishes, in my humble opinion, they specialize in lamb dishes. Well, maybe not even specialize. They just excel in lamb dishes. Then again, they excel in a few others. Now, for most Americans, they do have what might be the American and British staples, butter chicken and chicken tikka masala. Lamb or mutton pepper fry is another dish that you must get here. I know one of my favorite local chefs, Chef Adam from Savory Gourmet, he raves about it. I haven't flat out asked him, but he's sort of implied it's one of his top restaurants in the area. And if you were to flat out say, look, Joe Duffy of Atlanta Grubber, I want you to tell me your top 5 restaurants in your home chomping grounds of Alpha, Roz, Creek, it would be tough to leave this one out. So Madras, Chettinaad in Alpharetta, one of the top Indian restaurants in the entire area and one of the best restaurants in the area of any cuisine. Please make sure you visit Mitch's Meats at 30 East Crossville Road in West Roswell. Very high-end butcher, fishmonger. He cuts the meats to order for you. He can pretty much order anything. If you got a hard-to-get meat, talk to Mitch. He could probably get it for you. Now, as you know, I'm much more of a grubber than a cook and a chef, so I really love his homemade soups and sandwiches, which are weekdays for lunch. And as I've said many times, my wife, who loves Caesar salad, it's her favorite Caesar salad dressing in the history of the world. Visit them at mitchesmeats.com.
Now to sound bites with news, notes, and quick hitters on Atlanta area restaurants.
ITP to Chattahoochee Food Works, 1235 Chattahoochee Avenue. And appropriately enough, the Food Works is very much a work in progress. Now, if you listen to my podcast and you follow me on social media at Atlanta Grubber on both Twitter and Instagram, you know I am all in on food halls, and 2 of my occasional chomping grounds are Philadelphia and Columbus, Ohio, and my favorite places to eat in each city is a food hall. In Philadelphia, the Reading Terminal. In Columbus, Ohio, it is the North Market. Now, TV personality Andrew Zimmerman is the main man behind Chattahoochee Food Works.
Food halls and markets are exploding all over America, and that's because customers are demanding them. It's a fun way to grab a quick lunch with a group of friends. Everyone can get something different. The customer base here in Atlanta is really eager for stuff like this.
I hope so, Zim. I tried out Tide Tate Kitchen. It's comfort Thai food. Now, I am definitely a purist when it comes to these food courts and the food halls and whatever, like Reading Terminal. One of the big secrets, in my humble opinion, you know my opinion's always very humble, but Reading Terminal, one of the keys is most of the places there, that is their primary location, and in many cases, their only location. It's not like a fifth or sixth location of something. In the case of Tide Kitchen, they do have a catering business, but this is the first time they have something resembling a brick and mortar, and, very much similar to the way a lot of these places are, as I said, in the Reading terminal. Had the Penang beef curry. The wife had some fried rice. We both enjoyed. Our friends gave thumbs up to Banh Mi Station Atlanta. And by the way, one of those friends is the Beer and Pretzel Guy. Follow the Beer and Pretzel Guy on Instagram. I'm really excited. Look, you're very well aware that Belen de la Cruz and Cabanos are among those that are forthcoming. I'm big fans of both of them. And if you're not aware of that, if this is the first time you've ever listened to the Atlanta Grubber podcast, please go back and listen from the beginning. And I should say I've been pretty pleased. I did notice that when we get the listens, it seems that a lot of people find us and then they do start listening from the beginning. So if you haven't heard our previous episodes, I say this is episode 9. I also did 2 special episodes. Go back and listen to each and every one of them for the infallible restaurant reviews. But Belen de la Cruz and Cubanos will both be great additions to this place. I also noticed they have a hoagie and cheesesteak places. That is, they are different places, but both are forthcoming. Encouraged by the hoagie place. They use Soterio for the meat, so they definitely have potential. Of course, the big question is, where will they get the rolls? So a lot of places that haven't opened yet do hope to make it back and taste as Chattahoochee Food Works grows, and this does appear to be the best of any food hall in Atlanta thus far. So again, the Chattahoochee Food Works on Chattahoochee Avenue in West Atlanta. We are made possible by a generous grant from OffshoreInsiders.com, the place to go for the best sports betting picks in the world. Also, vetted offshore sports books and the handicappers at OffshoreInsiders.com, tracing our roots back to the 1980s scorephone days. OffshoreInsiders.com. Also, follow us at Offshore Insider on Twitter. There is no S at the end because of the character limitations. The website is OffshoreInsiders.com. Twitter is at Offshore Insider. Pasador Brazilian Steakhouse, 2355 Mansell Road in Alpharetta, Georgia. I've heard this called a jinx location many times. Maybe it's a semantical thing. To me, a jinx location means that even if you had a quality restaurant, you would avoid that specific address, that specific unit. Now, I think this location has only been jinxed with a bunch of terrible places. Finally, a good place there, and to tell you the truth, substantially better than the previous Brazilian steakhouse there. Don't confuse it. Pasador Steakhouse is a brand new one. The service and the food much better than the previous restaurant with a similar theme. A little surprise, too, a pleasant surprise, by the way. Medium rare is an option with a lot of the red meats. Brazilians tend to like their meat a little bit more well done than we Americans do, but I do like the fact that they'll come around with a medium rare option. You know, it was really surprising. They have a nice salad bar, which is pretty commonplace, but the chicken salad, of all things, was a really nice surprise. The only minor disappointment, not because it wasn't good, but the potato salad. I'm really a fan of Brazilian potato salad, which is kind of like Ukrainian potato salad, but this is really an American version. But anyway, pretty darn good Brazilian steakhouse, Pasador Steakhouse in Alpharetta. Novo Cucina, 5592 Shamley Dunwoody Road in Dunwoody.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore.
Although they do have pizza pie here, this is an upscale Italian restaurant. Richard Iulio, veteran chef, most notably of Soto Soto, is one of the partners, and then the managing partner is Mike DiPaolo, who founded his namesake restaurant in Roswell. Did sell it a few years ago. Still a good restaurant. Not as good, though, when the DiPaolo family owned it. So if you really want even higher quality, Novo Cucina is very good. The beef carpaccio and the linguine del pescatore were the things that I tried on my initial visit. Only one visit so far. That's why I haven't done an in-depth review of it, but I hope to try it quite a few more times. We've got some good Italian restaurants here in metropolitan Atlanta, even here on the north side. They make everything either in-house or it's imported. My wife, who is Miss Chicken Parmesan and Caesar salad lover, they didn't have chicken Parmesan here on the menu, but that's okay. She liked the deconstructed lasagna. Definitely among the best of the best really busy place. Word has gotten out. They're not hurting for business, nor should they be, but higher-end Italian Novo Cucina in Dunwoody. I like to focus mostly on positive reviews, but I think it's good to mix in a lukewarm or negative review just so you can kind of get a better idea of my taste. A few people said I needed to get the JP Sushi in Roswell, heard some decent reports. Frankly, I found it to be okay at best. There are just many better options. I'm not saying by any stretch you should avoid this place, but it was just meh. And we have a lot of really good sushi places in the area, so I don't think I'm going to be rushing the JP Sushi again. Again, is it on my list of places that are bad and avoid at all costs? No way. No, it's half decent, but at Atlantic Rubber, we don't do half decent. Jay's Mexican Grill up there in Forsyth County at 1545 McFarland Parkway, just east of Halcyon and across the street. So you pass Halcyon if you're coming from 400 and then to the left. Now, Joe from Joe's Pizza in Alpharetta, which is, of course, the best New York-style pizza anywhere, he touted this place to me. Both the Al Pastor tacos, of course, I got corn tortillas. What do you think I am, some type of barbarian? And the barbacoa tortas were very good. They like to say they are definitely not Tex-Mex.
Hope you like Mexican food, because we have fajitas, enchiladas, special sauce.
Now, my wife happens to be a big fan of Tex-Mex, and she did like the beef fajitas, so don't get scared away if you're like, well, I didn't like Tex-Mex. They do have the authentic stuff, but they do have some stuff that would be considered typical American Mexican-type food. So again, really good place, Jay's Mexican Grill, not too far from Halcyon. If you do enjoy this podcast and you think there's some valuable information here, and there is if you like good food, do me a favor, please visit StarHouseFoundation.org and just take a look at how good this charity is. They do so much work helping at-risk kids level the playing field, getting a good education, serving over 300 at-risk children in 5 Title I North Fulton County schools. It is the preferred charity of Atlantic Rubber. The Star House Foundation, they get individual instruction. A lot of these kids come from home where the parents don't necessarily have the academic ability. Some of them don't speak English to really help them with their homework. They get all of that and more at the Star House Foundation. Please, again, visit StarHouseFoundation.org. That's all I ask, is that you visit the site, take a look at it, and give strong consideration to supporting the Star House Foundation any way you possibly can. I'm going to stay in the area of Halcyon, not directly in Halcyon itself, but Heidi's Heavenly Cookies at 355 Curry Drive in Alpharetta.
Now, what starts with the letter C? Cookie starts with C. Let's think of other things that starts with C. Who cares about the other things?
Yeah, the aforesaid Belen de la Cruz is like, have you not had these cookies yet? You really need to get there. They've been featured on the USA Today, Good Morning America, Rachel Ray, Southern Living, People Magazine, and now featured on the most prestigious of them all, the Atlantic Rubber Podcast. Their signature toffee chocolate chip is superb. Wife a big fan of the raspberry chocolate eclipse. Again, Heidi's Heavenly Cookies, and you can order online as well. I've done 2 special editions of the Atlantic Rubber Podcast so far. One of them was road food along I-75, and I got another one to add to it. Most of them on that podcast, if that edition of the podcast, if you haven't listened, go back. You want to listen to every single episode. But let me add Durham's Pit Barbecue and Catering. No, it's not in Durham. It's at 219 Commercial Drive in London, Kentucky. Only about 2, maybe 3 miles off of Interstate 75. I had beef, pork, and sausage. Look, I'm a growing boy. I had to get a big combo plate. Collard greens, potato salad. It's very good. High up there. I'm not going to say it's going to break into my big 3. Remember on that episode, I singled out 3 restaurants that were my favorites when you're talking about driving through Tennessee, Kentucky, parts of Ohio on Interstate 75. But this is a place that I would, without any question, go again. And like I said, pretty convenient off and on the interstate. Durham's Pit Barbecue in London, Kentucky. We're also made possible from a generous grant by DuffyCents.com. That's DuffyScents.com. Authorized Scentsy dealer. Fragrances for the home, the office, the auto, the bathroom, just about everywhere. And I really like it in my office where I spend, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. The blueberry is another one of my new favorites. Satin sheets.
Hubba, allow me, mademoiselle.
Wild Cherry is another wonderful scent. We're approaching the fall pretty quickly. They had a maple syrup that I really enjoyed. Maple syrup breakfast, or morning breakfast, I think is what it's actually called. But check out the entire catalog at duffyscents.com.